Level 1. Reckless Actor. A reckless actor is someone who controls others using pure emotion and strong will. These are manipulators who act mostly on instinct, sometimes without even realizing they're doing it. An example of a reckless actor is Eren Yeager. At the start of Attack on Titan, Eren is just a kid who wants to protect his people and see the world beyond the walls. But this desire also makes him dangerous. You see, Eren has the Attack Titan, which gives its future inheritor the power to send memories back in time to a past inheritor through something called the Paths. Eren uses this power to shape events across time, making sure he would inherit both the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan. One big moment in the series is when Eren manipulates his own father, Grisha. Eren appears in Grisha's memory and reminds him of all the suffering Eldians went through in Marley, even showing him a glimpse of the rumbling. By doing this, Eren corners Grisha emotionally, forcing him to kill the Rice family and take the Founding Titan. Later, this Titan is passed down to Eren when he is a child, but Eren is the lowest manipulator on this list for a reason. He didn't plan everything from the start. He was reacting to the events in front of him. A higher level manipulator would have carefully built the whole system on purpose from the beginning. Also, Eren's manipulation comes from his trauma and emotions, not from careful patience or intelligence. Level 2. Tactical Deceiver. A tactical deceiver watches people closely, figures out what they're thinking and feeling, and then twists things to get what they want. These manipulators notice tiny details, like how someone hesitates or how their eyes move, and they use that information at just the right moment to make everyone go exactly where they want. The best example of a tactical deceiver is Yuichi Katagiri. At first, Yuichi looks like the nicest guy in his friend group. He's loyal, caring, and always looking out for everyone. But behind that warm smile is someone who grew up in a really harsh environment, where reading people carefully was how he survived. Yuichi learned early on that everyone has hidden motives, secret fears, and breaking points, and he got really good at finding them. When Yuichi and his friends are pulled into the Tomodachi game, a psychological game meant to destroy friendships through debt and betrayal, Yuichi gets to work. The way Yuichi manipulates people is kind of scary. First, he controls what people know. He never shows his full plan, instead giving just enough information to make people feel confident, while keeping the most important pieces to himself. Second, he uses trust. Yuichi knows that the strongest weapon in the game isn't money or power. It's making people believe he's on their side. He keeps people emotionally attached so that even when things get suspicious, they trust him instead of questioning him. Third, he targets weaknesses. Everyone in the Tomodachi game has something they're hiding, like greed, guilt, or insecurity. Yuichi finds those weak spots and presses on them at exactly the right moment. The only downside is that Yuichi really cares about his friends in real life. Even though he can be ruthless, those genuine feelings sometimes mess with his plans as a manipulator. Level 3. The Predator. A predator is someone who studies other people and uses them to explore the dark side of human behavior. These are people who want to see what's really underneath, and the only thing that makes them feel alive is watching others break. Two characters who fit this level are Kirei Kotomine from Fate Zero and Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass. Let's start with Kirei Kotomine. Kirei grew up doing everything right. He was disciplined, devoted, and always tried to be a good person. He even became a priest and served the church. But no matter how much good he did, he felt nothing. No happiness, no peace or fulfillment. The only time Kirei ever felt alive was when he saw someone in pain. That feeling lit something inside him that nothing else could. Instead of ignoring it, Kirei eventually decided to embrace it. You see, his way of manipulating people is unique. He doesn't do it just to defeat them. He does it to corrupt them and drag them down to a point where they have to face the worst parts of themselves. The best example of this is his relationship with Kariya in Fate Zero. Kariya joins the Holy Grail War to save a little girl named Sakura from a terrible life. Kirei watches this and becomes fascinated because he wants to see what happens when someone with pure intentions is completely destroyed by a cruel world. Kirei carefully engineers Kariya's suffering, giving him just enough hope to keep going, then taking it away. He makes Kariya's love for Sakura the thing that ends up destroying him. And he does all this because watching a good man fall apart is the only thing that makes him feel real. This particular behavior is also similar to that of Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass, but he works in a different way. Makishima talks about philosophy and the beauty of human nature with real passion, but underneath he believes that people are only truly alive when they are free to do violent things. Makishima lives in a world controlled by the Sybil system, a government AI that monitors people's minds and predicts crimes before they happen. Most people live safely inside this system without ever making their own choices, and Makishima sees this as the death of humanity, so he manipulates people into doing terrible acts to show that real human nature is dark, free, and even beautiful in its violence. The thing about Kirei and Makishima is that they both feel disconnected from normal human emotions. The only way they feel happiness is by using other people's feelings as tools, pulling them like puppets to satisfy their own dark curiosity. Level 4, False Messiah. A false messiah is someone who tricks others by making themselves seem like the most important person ever. They make people look up to them, control what they believe, what they want, and even how they see themselves. They also make people think their biggest purpose in life is to help the false messiah reach their goals. Griffith from Berserk is a perfect example of a false messiah. When you first meet him, it's almost impossible not to be drawn to him. He is beautiful, charming, and incredibly smart. He talks about his dream of having his own kingdom with so much passion that it stopped feeling like ambition and starts feeling like destiny. People around him feel it too. Griffith's manipulation is scary because it feels completely natural. He's someone you can't stop watching, and he knows it. He makes everyone feel special. Casca felt it, Judo felt it, every member of the Band of the Hawk felt it. Everything Griffith does is leading up to one moment, which is the eclipse. After losing everything, including his freedom, his body, and his dream, he is given a choice by the God Hand. He can either sacrifice his friends, the people who loved him and gave everything for him, to become a demon god, or he can die as a broken human with nothing. Griffith chooses to sacrifice his friends. This is when you see how terrifying a false messiah really is. Every single person in the Band of the Hawk gave everything for Griffith's dream, and in his worst moment, Griffith sacrificed them and used them as a stepping stone for his own gain. Makima from Chainsaw Man is another false messiah. Her goal is to take away people's freedom and replace it with total devotion to her idea of a perfect world. She sees her followers as tools or pets that exist only to serve her. Makima uses loneliness as a weapon. She finds people who are broken, with no home or purpose, and gives them a reason to exist. This is where Denji comes in. Denji, the main character, has never experienced genuine affection in his entire life. He grew up in poverty, treated like property, with no dreams and no future. And then Makima shows him the smallest amount of warmth, and this completely rewires him. And now he doesn't just want to impress her, he wants to become worthy of her. She becomes his entire reason for existing. And that is exactly the trap. Makima knows exactly what she's doing. She picks broken people on purpose. She gives them just enough warmth to make them completely dependent on her, and then she controls them. What makes her so dangerous is how she controls Denji over the whole story. She gives him hope, little wins, small happy moments, and just a taste of a normal life, enough to make him desperate to protect it all. And when those things are taken away, she's there to comfort him and turn his pain into loyalty. By the time Denji realizes what Makima really is, he's so deep in her trap that it almost doesn't matter. She has controlled him so completely that he can't want anything except her. Level 5, Judgement Eye. These are people who manipulate the world by making themselves the ultimate judge of right and wrong. They control systems, societies, and even the idea of justice itself. They build a reputation so huge that entire populations start organizing themselves around it. Light Yagami from Death Note is maybe the most famous manipulator in anime. Unlike others, Light doesn't just manipulate individuals, he manipulates the entire idea of justice and twists it to serve his own vision. When Light finds the Death Note and learns he can kill anyone by writing their name, he gets excited because he sees it as the tool he's been waiting for his whole life, a tool to fix the broken world. Light truly believes that the world is messed up and that he is the only one smart and strong enough to fix it. With the Death Note, Light brands himself as Kira, a god of justice that millions of people believe in around the world. But he doesn't stop there. Light carefully controls how people die to send messages, and times most of his killings to respond to world events. This builds a global following of people who think Kira is the only one who can clean the world. By the time governments and law enforcement push back, millions of ordinary people are defending him, even though they've never seen Kira. The best example of Light's Judgement Eye is his relationship with L. You see, L is the only person who can match Light intellectually, and their battle of wits is one of the greatest manipulations in anime history. Both know exactly what the other is doing, but they keep trying to outsmart each other. To further his plan, Light joins the Kira investigation team, the very team trying to catch him so he can watch and misdirect the investigation from the inside. He keeps up his innocent student act so perfectly that even L, who suspects him, cannot prove anything. The craziest part is when Light temporarily gives up ownership of the Death Note, erasing all memories of being Kira. He genuinely becomes innocent, passes every test, and even builds a real friendship with L. Then, when the time is right, he takes the Death Note back and remembers everything. Lelouch from Code Geass is another example of a Judgement Eye manipulator. He creates a masked revolutionary figure to inspire an entire liberation movement. At the same time, he stays a student student at school, keeping his cover. Lelouch also has Gies, a power that lets him give anyone an absolute order, but he rarely needs to use it. He is so smart at reading people and planning situations that the Gies is almost just a backup. The real weapon is his mind. Lelouch inspires and controls people through drama and leadership. He makes them feel like they are part of something historic, but behind the scenes, he makes ruthless calculations every moment. He sacrifices people, manipulates his allies, and even uses his sister Nunnally, the person he loves most, as motivation and sometimes as a tool. Everything Lelouch does is towards the Zero Requiem, one of the greatest examples of large-scale manipulation in anime. He conquers the world and becomes the most hated emperor in history, making himself the face of every evil, injustice, and war. Then he allows Suzaku, disguised as Zero, to publicly assassinate him in front of the entire world. By dying, Lelouch destroys the hatred he created. With the symbol of all evil gone, the world can finally move toward peace. But to get there, Lelouch had to manipulate human psychology on a global scale, planning his own death as the final move in a plan designed to heal the world he spent years breaking apart. Level 6, Grand Orchestrator. A Grand Orchestrator is someone who changes how things happen without anyone realizing it, and by the time people understand the truth, it's too late to fix anything. These manipulators create situations, relationships, and systems where people naturally move toward the outcome the Orchestrator already planned, all while thinking they are making their own choices. Two characters that fit this level are Aizen from Bleach and Ayano Koji from Classroom of the Elite. Sosuke Aizen is a great example of a Grand Orchestrator. For over 100 years, he has been planning and manipulating the Soul Society without anyone knowing. At first, he seems like just another captain of the Gotei 13, but later it's revealed that he's been behind the scenes manipulating almost everything for years so he could achieve his ultimate goal, which is to overthrow the Soul King and take over the entire world himself. Aizen even manipulated his superior, Shinji Hirako, back when he was still a lieutenant. On top of that, he tricked the Soul Society into thinking that the Viscerid and Kisuke Urahara were doing holification experiments, which got them banished. Aizen also controlled Ichigo's development from the very beginning. Every event that happened to Ichigo was part of Aizen's plan to make him stronger. You see, what makes Aizen truly dangerous is that he never lets emotions get in the way. We all saw how he sacrifices the Espada without hesitation, and kills Genichimaru and Tosen without a second thought when they become useless to his plan, even though they had been with him for a long time. Kiyotaka Ayanokoji from Classroom of the Elite is also a Grand Orchestrator who decided to prove his abilities in the most controlled, precise environment possible, which is a high school. You see, Ayanokoji is a product of something called the White Room, which is a facility that took children and put them through conditions so extreme, so psychologically brutal, that the goal was to produce something that was extremely beyond genius. Before the White Room, Ayanokoji was a prodigy who was smart already, but after going through the White Room, he became even more dangerous. And one of the reasons is because the White Room stripped away everything that makes manipulation difficult for normal, which are things like emotion, attachment, and ego, which often cloud the decisions of people. As a result of this, from day one at his school, Ayanokoji deliberately scores exactly 50 out of 100 on every test. He sits in the back and makes sure he doesn't stand out. By doing this, he makes himself completely forgettable so that nobody ever looks at him as a threat or a variable, and this makes him dangerous. Instead of acting directly himself, Ayanokoji uses other people as tools to get what he wants. One of them is Kei Karuizawa. Ayanokoji manipulates Karuizawa and used her as a tool to gather information from other students without him intervening directly. And there are many other characters like Horikita and Kushida who Ayanokoji used. And one thing that makes him similar to Aizen is also his lack of emotions. Ayanokoji didn't hesitate to use people as pawns to achieve his goal, even though some of them genuinely liked him and developed feelings for him. Level 7, Void Emperor. A Void Emperor is someone whose manipulation has transcended strategy, transcended ideology, and transcended even identity itself. Johann Liebert from Monster is the most terrifying manipulator in this list. You see, Johann has no army, no organization, no death note, or any supernatural ability of any kind. He is just a person. He finds people carrying pain, guilt, or a secret weight that has been slowly crushing them, and he sits down, talks to them, and listens. Then reflects back to that person the truest, darkest, most hidden version of themselves, which they have never shown anyone. People who meet Johann simply change. Their lives curve toward destruction as if Johann's presence rewrote something fundamental in their lives. Some of them commit suicide. And some of them become become killers, and some of them simply lose the will to continue existing in the world as it was before they met him. And he does all these with no weapon or elaborate scheme. He only uses the right words, placed in the right ears at the right moment. That is why he's a Void Emperor, because he can cause maximum destruction with zero effort. And one fascinating thing about Johann is that nobody can explain him, including the psychiatrists or detectives. In fact, the series itself refuses to fully explain him.